A poor homeless boy, unexpectedly, finds himself fighting to protect a young billionaire he has never met, a moment that changes both of their lives forever. It began long before the fight, on a quiet Abuja evening, when Annabel Thompson's perfect world stalled in the middle of an empty road. She had just left a draining real estate negotiation, the kind where smiles were sharp and every handshake felt like a test. Her mind was full, her nerves stretched thin, and all she wanted was to get home and escape the weight of being the youngest billionaire in the room. The night air was cool, the long stretch of Gwarinpa bypass unusually silent, and for the first time in hours, she allowed herself to breathe. But then her sleek black SUV trembled, jerked once, then sputtered to a dead stop. "You've got to be kidding me," she whispered, tapping the ignition again. Nothing, no engine rumble, no comforting hum, just silence thick enough to raise goosebumps. Annabel tried her phone next, lifting it toward the sky as if she could force the signal to cooperate. 0 bars. This was the exact moment life enjoyed laughing at people who thought they had everything under control. She stepped out of the SUV, heels clicking nervously against the asphalt. The surrounding darkness seemed to swallow the edges of the road. Somewhere far off, a dog barked, and the wind rustled dry leaves across her feet. She opened the bonnet, even though she had absolutely no idea what she was looking at. All the shining metal and coiled wires glared back at her like a complicated puzzle mocking her exhaustion. She sighed deeply, rubbing her forehead. Great. Just great. She didn't notice him at first. Kelvin had been sitting under a tree across the road, hugging his torn backpack close to his chest like it contained the last pieces of his life. His clothes were dusty, his slippers worn thin, his eyes carrying the quiet sadness of someone who had slept in too many unsafe corners. He wasn't looking for trouble, only a place to breathe without being chased away. But when he heard the cough of the SUV and saw the frustrated woman step out, something about her loneliness against the huge dark road pulled him in. He stood slowly, brushing dirt from his trousers out of habit. Part courage, part instinct, part kindness, he didn't even understand. He walked toward her. Annabel sensed footsteps and spun around, fear shooting through her chest. A young man emerged from the shadows, tall but tired-looking, clothes rough, face marked by dust and years of hardship. Her breath hitched. "Please, don't come any closer," she said, stepping back. Kelvin stopped immediately, hands lifted slightly to show he meant no harm. His voice came softly, almost apologetically. "I'm not here to take anything. I just heard you needed help." Something about the gentleness in his tone, quiet but steady, made her pause. She watched him carefully as he approached the bonnet, moving with a calm confidence that didn't match his appearance. Kelvin leaned in and inspected the engine with the focus of someone who understood machines better than people. Within seconds, he spotted a loose fuse, pressed it back into place, and stepped aside. "Try it now," he murmured. Annabel hesitated, slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine roared back to life as if it had only been sleeping. She blinked in shock. "How did you—" Kelvin shrugged lightly, a small smile touching his lips. "Not everything broken needs a miracle. Sometimes it just needs a touch." She stepped out again, reaching for her purse, but he stopped her gently with a shake of his head. If kindness must be paid for, it stops being kindness. That line hit her deeper than she expected, settling into her chest like warm truth. Without thinking, she pulled out a sleek business card and held it toward him. "Come see me tomorrow. I want to help you." Kelvin stared at the card like it was a doorway he wasn't sure he deserved, but the night was quiet, her eyes sincere, and something in him whispered to take the chance. Kelvin stood at the towering front gates of Thompson Heights the next morning, clutching the cleanest shirt he owned, though that wasn't saying much. The massive glass building shimmered under the Abuja sun, looking more like a palace than a workplace. He swallowed hard, repeating Annabel's words in his mind. "Come see me tomorrow. I want to help you." It was the only reason he had walked miles to get there, the only reason he dared to hope. But hope can be dangerous in the wrong place. The moment he approached the gate, 2 security guards eyed him suspiciously. His worn slippers, rough clothes, and tired face earned him no mercy. "Ogre, go back. This place no be for people like you," one guard said, motioning him away. Kelvin tried to smile politely. "I'm here to see Miss Annabel Thompson." The second guard burst into loud laughter. "You? See, madam. A beg shift." They didn't just laugh. They pushed him back, one hand shoving his shoulder, another poking his chest as if he were something stuck to their shoes. Kelvin stumbled but didn't fall. He straightened again, heart pounding, but pride holding him upright. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said firmly, breathing slowly so his voice wouldn't shake. "She asked me to come." They scoffed. "If you don't leave now, we'll drag you out." Kelvin's fists clenched at his sides, not to fight them, but to stop himself from breaking down. He didn't throw a punch. He didn't yell. He simply stood there, unmovable, refusing to let them push his dignity into the dirt. It was the first fight of his life that didn't involve his hands, just his courage. And that alone confused the guards enough for one to whisper, "This boy dey mad." But Kelvin remained still, gaze steady, determined not to leave. For the first time in years, someone had offered to help him, even if he barely understood why. He wouldn't walk away from that. Upstairs, Annabel glanced out her office window while sipping her morning tea, and froze. She recognized the dusty backpack, the posture, the boy from last night, being shoved like trash. Her heart kicked hard against her ribs. Oh no. She didn't wait for the elevator. She stormed down the stairs, heels echoing like thunder. The guards barely had time to turn before she snapped, "Let him in!" The entire front area went silent. One guard blinked rapidly. Madam, this boy?" Annabel stepped between Kelvin and the guards like a shield. "He is my guest. If he were harmed, you would both be jobless by noon." Shame flushed their faces instantly. Kelvin lowered his eyes, embarrassed, but Annabel touched his arm lightly. "Come with me." Inside, whispers started immediately. Selina, Annabel's assistant, watched from a distance and narrowed her eyes to thin, envious lines. Within minutes, she had already begun gossiping. "He wants your money," she whispered in the break room. "This is how they pretend, acting innocent." Her voice dripped with disdain. "He's beneath her status." Those poisonous words floated through hallways, seeding judgment. Meanwhile, Annabel guided Kelvin to the basement innovation garage, a quiet space full of old engines, worn-out machines, and tools no one had used in ages. "You can start here," she said softly. "Just help us sort this equipment." It wasn't glamorous, but to Kelvin, it looked like heaven. He dove into the work instantly, eyes lighting up as he recognized mechanical parts most people overlooked. He moved with surprising skill, organizing tools, repairing bolts, tightening loose fittings. Annabel watched from the glass walkway above, stunned. His hands were steady, his focus intense. "He's gifted," she murmured to herself. But news traveled fast. By noon, Mr. Idris, the sharp-tongued senior board member, cornered Annabel. "If the media finds out you're entertaining a street boy, your reputation will suffer," he warned sternly. "You are a billionaire, Annabel. Act like one." His words were ice, but Annabel held her ground. Still, she couldn't shake the fear creeping into her chest. Not because Kelvin was dangerous, but because the world wasn't kind to boys like him. The world tried to crush them before they even had a chance. Kelvin didn't mean to overhear anything. He had simply gone upstairs to return a misplaced wrench when he passed the hallway near the conference room. That was when Selina's sharp voice cut through the air like a blade. She stood with 2 interns, arms folded, lips curled in that familiar mix of bitterness and fake concern. Billionaires don't end up with people like him, she said, shaking her head dramatically. Kelvin is a project, not a person. Annabel pities him, that's all. One intern chuckled awkwardly, and the other whispered, "So he won't last here." Selena smirked. "Last? Sweetheart, he's already overstayed." Kelvin froze. Those words seeped into him like cold water, draining every ounce of warmth he'd felt these past days. He quietly backed away before they noticed him, each step heavier than the last. By the time Annabel came to check on him in the garage, the spot where he usually worked was empty. His tools were neatly arranged, almost too neatly. Kelvin had disappeared without a word. Annabel's heart tightened the moment she saw his empty workspace. She asked the technicians. No one had seen him. She checked the security logs. Nothing. She paced the hallway, dialing the number she had helped him register the day before. It rang once, then went silent. "Kelvin, please pick up," she whispered, anxiety clawing at her. She asked staff on every floor, hoping someone had spotted him leaving. Each "no ma'am" deepened the ache in her chest. By afternoon, she was no longer pretending to be calm. She drove through the streets of Abuja with her windows down, calling his name in markets, at roadside mechanic corners, even under pedestrian bridges, where she feared he might have gone back to hide from the world. Her last stop was a rough industrial area behind a cluster of abandoned buildings. She almost drove past until she recognized the familiar backpack hanging beside a rusted generator. Her breath caught. Kelvin was there, sweaty, exhausted, hands blackened with oil. He was helping a group of laborers fix old generators for meager daily wages. He looked thinner, angrier, wounded in a way she couldn't see but could deeply feel. She stepped out of the car, calling softly, "Kelvin." His shoulders stiffened. He didn't turn. She took another step toward him, and that was the moment it happened. Two area boys, seeing her handbag and the shiny car behind her, grew bold. They approached quietly at first, then one grabbed her wrist and the other yanked her bag. Annabel screamed, stumbling backward. Kelvin's head snapped up instantly. He dropped the wrench and ran with a speed born from instinct, fear, and something deeper he didn't dare name. "Don't touch her!" His voice thundered across the open yard. He slammed into the first boy, knocking him to the ground. The second tried to run, but Kelvin grabbed him by the shirt, punching, blocking, scrambling with wild determination. They hit him. He hit back harder. His lips split. His knuckles bled. His breath came in ragged bursts, but he refused to back down. He fought with everything he had, arms, fists, adrenaline, survival instinct, all tangled into one fierce storm. At last, bruised and breathless, Kelvin forced both boys to flee. As they disappeared into the distance, his knees buckled. He dropped to the ground, trembling violently. Annabel rushed to him, sinking beside him on the dusty concrete. "Why would you risk your life like that?" she cried, cupping his face despite the blood and grime. Kelvin shut his eyes, voice barely a whisper. "Because you're the only person who ever saw me as human." Before he could say more, Annabel pulled him into a tight, desperate embrace. She didn't care about the watching crowd, his torn clothes, his blood, or the judgment in anyone's eyes. At that moment, she chose him, with her whole heart. Annabel didn't waste a second. With Kelvin barely able to stand after the fight, she slid her arm around him and helped him into her car, whispering soft reassurances the entire way to a private clinic in Woos. The nurses recognized her immediately, and without a single question, they rushed Kelvin inside. Annabel stayed behind them, refusing to leave his side even when they tried to usher her out of the treatment room. She watched every bandage wrap, every stitched cut, every painful flinch across Kelvin's face. It was strange. Hours earlier, she had been juggling board emails and investor calls. Now, none of those things mattered. Only Kelvin did. When the doctors finally said he needed rest, Annabel sank into the chair beside his bed, brushing a hand over his bandaged knuckles. "You didn't have to fight like that," she murmured, "but I'm grateful you did." Kelvin, barely awake, whispered, "I'd do it again." She stayed there all night, refusing to sleep, eyes glued to him like she might lose him if she blinked too long. By morning, Kelvin woke to the soft rustle of Annabel's blazer and the warm scent of coffee she hadn't touched. He blinked slowly, still trying to piece together the chaos of the previous day. She leaned forward with a tired smile. "You're safe now. That's all that matters." He tried to sit up, but she placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Rest. You don't have to run anymore." And for the first time in his life, Kelvin believed someone meant those words. After his discharge, Annabel drove him not to the staff quarters, but to a furnished apartment she had personally arranged. It wasn't extravagant, just clean, warm, and safe. There were fresh clothes in the wardrobe, new shoes, and even a small work desk. Kelvin stared at it all in disbelief. "Annabel, this is too much." She shook her head softly. "Not after everything you've gone through. This is your new beginning." She didn't stop there. Within days, she hired a private tutor specializing in mechanical engineering fundamentals. Kelvin threw himself into the lessons with burning determination, soaking up everything, like someone afraid knowledge might disappear if he blinked. He studied late into the night with sketches scattered across his desk, diagrams taped to his walls, and pages covered in scribbled formulas. He struggled sometimes, frustrated at gaps in his education, but Annabel encouraged him through every setback. "You've got this," she'd say, nudging a plate of food toward him, while he frowned over equations. "It's okay to feel overwhelmed. What matters is that you keep going." Kelvin always did. Months rolled by, and Kelvin's transformation was undeniable. He learned CAD modeling with surprising speed, creating detailed 3D designs that even seasoned engineers respected. He started volunteering ideas in the innovation garage, quietly at first, then with growing confidence. His designs were sharp, intelligent, and full of the creative boldness born from someone who had once repaired broken things just to survive. Soon, the same employees who doubted him began asking for his input. "Kelvin, what do you think about this valve structure? Bro, check this engine noise. Your ear is sharp." He became a quiet pillar in the department, earning admiration through dedication rather than noise. Selena avoided him entirely now. Her gossip seemed ridiculous compared to the man he was becoming. Annabel often watched him from a distance, her heart swelling with a pride she didn't dare name. Exactly 1 year after the night she first met him, Kelvin stood outside the Thompson Heights Auditorium after presenting his first independent engine prototype, a compact, efficient model that left the board speechless. He had done it, truly done it. Later that evening, Annabel asked him to meet her at Jabby Lake, the sun already dipping behind the water. Kelvin arrived with nervous excitement tugging at his chest. She stood there, barefoot on the soft sand, the wind teasing her hair, her eyes glowing with something deeper than pride. When he approached, she turned fully, taking in the man he had become, steady, brilliant, gentle, despite everything life had thrown at him. "You didn't just fight for my life," she said quietly, voice trembling with emotion. "You fought for my heart." Kelvin's throat tightened. His voice came out shaky, honest. "I'll keep fighting, if you'll stay beside me." Annabel stepped closer, took his hand slowly, deliberately. "Kelvin," she whispered, "I already chose you." The wind brushed against them like a blessing, and for once, Kelvin didn't feel homeless, unwanted, or invisible. He felt chosen, loved, whole. And as the sun melted into the water, it felt like the entire world was finally giving him permission to breathe. Life has a gentle way of reminding us that worth isn't found in wealth or titles, but in kindness, courage, and the quiet strength to rise again. Kelvin's journey shows that even in the deepest valleys, a single act of compassion can open a brand new world. And Annabel's heart teaches us that love grows where judgment ends. If this story touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video, subscribe, share it with friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective might inspire someone who needs hope today.